Hi, everyone. It's Dina at the Realize Foundation, and I'm here with another special guest today, Avy Schondorf. And I'm so excited for you to share your story with me. I know it's something that maybe you haven't shared before publicly, so I'm excited to have this conversation with you. And Avy is the host of the AvyHD podcast. So she also talks about mental health a lot. So if you guys follow this podcast, you might also want to look up hers. So we'll put the links in the show notes for you. So welcome, Avy. I'm so excited.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. So ADHD seems like it is the underlying thing in your story, but I know from what I know, there's a lot more to the story. So I would like you to share what you would like to share with us.
Thank you so much. Um, like you said, it's my first time talking publicly. I think I'm sort of, even for myself, tracking the full story of my mental health journey, um, which I would say it started externalizing when I was around 13 with an eating disorder. And I struggled with an eating disorder for almost a decade. Um, and I just sort of was living my life used to the idea that I was going to be sad every day. I remember talking to my friends when I was turning 30, and I said, like, this is just me. This is just who I am. I'm just going to be sad. Like, my days are going to be hard. My life is going to be sad. I'm going to be high anxiety. So all I can do is really cope with that. And while I was saying that externally, part of me, or part of my brain, completely refused to accept that idea. And that was the first time that I actually took a step back and started looking at my journey and my mental health struggles from a different lens. Like, okay, let's put aside the assumption that this is just who you are, that you're just going to be a sad person, because that's who I was for as long as I had known myself. I would wake up and there wouldn't be a single day that didn't have down moments at the very least. So my conclusion was, if every day has down moments and every day is difficult, that means that this is just me. This is just who I am. This is just what it is. And once I came to the realization that this is just me, I started to think about what that meant for real. This is just me. I'm just a depressed person forever. Or is there something that's underlying? Is there something more that's happening here? Is there something that is causing the depression? And then I kind of became obsessed with the idea of depression and anxiety as a symptom. And I started doing research in that direction, not as the cause, not as something direct to treat, but as the symptom of something that was real. Luckily, I have 2 young kids. And when I turned 30, they were turning 4 and 7. So very interesting developmental ages where I could kind of see that they were very, very different from each other. But I understood both of them completely. I was like, this person's brain, I understand. I know this. I am this person. On this person's brain, I understand. I am this person. How can it be that I understand both of them and yet they're polar opposites of each other? And that gave me an additional piece of information, an additional piece of data of like, okay, maybe your brain is different. Maybe what you think is normal, you only think is normal because that's the only brain you have access to. This is normal for you. That doesn't mean that it's average or that it's normal for the majority of the population. So if it's not normal for the majority of the population, then that means I've been living in a world that isn't designed for me. So if I've been living in a world that isn't designed for me, then it makes sense that I've been struggling. And that conclusion was really freeing to me because it gave me the opportunity to really look at my life from a different lens. The lens that I'd been looking at myself from before that was, you're a crazy person. And like I said, that started with just generalized depression and anxiety when I was a young teenager, 12 and 13, and then an eating disorder for a long time. I moved across the world when I was 16 years old by myself. And that upheaval was interesting and definitely challenging and had challenges to it, but it was also very freeing. And I was able to pursue my own path, my own life, what I wanted. And I started going to therapy. I started getting medicated, and the medication was helpful sometimes in that I was able to sort of stay above water, but not really. And that's when I got used to this existence of like, I'd be totally fine if I woke up dead tomorrow. And that's a really painful way to live, because it ultimately just devalues your entire life. If it doesn't matter if I'm here or not, then nothing matters. And if nothing matters, then why should you try? But then I had kids. And when I had kids, when I had my first daughter, I realized, like when I got pregnant, I realized that I didn't have a way out anymore. That even if I wanted to take a quick exit, I can't anymore, because I'm bringing a human being into the world and I need to take care of them. So I know at this moment that no matter how hard it gets for me, I'm committing to stick around. And that was both the beginning of my healing, because I had no choice, and also the beginning of some of my most intense struggles. I was not prepared for postpartum. I was also in school full time, and I was working full time, and I was doing my social work field work with a little baby with me all the time. And I was struggling. I was not okay. My bar for success was so low. Honestly, like if I was awake and wearing clothing and the baby was alive, like, check, we're doing good for the day. And while I was struggling so deeply and genuinely could not get myself out of bed, somehow objectively, I was working full time and in school full time. The baby was fine. The house was fine. Everything was still happening. And when I look back at myself at that time, I have no idea how I did any of that. I haven't the faintest clue. And that also means that people didn't understand that I was struggling, because I was totally fine on the outside. Nobody knew that I was struggling like that. I mean, my husband knew, but my mental health was a burden on him as well, because he had to pick up the slack for everything that I wasn't able to do. And that contributed to the guilt and to the shame. Sort of debating where to go from here, because I'm kind of all over the place. But I just accepted it. That was the life I accepted for myself. This is going to be what it is. Every single day is going to be an uphill battle. Every single day is going to be difficult. Every single day I'm going to be exhausted. Joy is something that is for other people, and I might experience glimpses of it, but it's not for me. And my life is just not going to be easy, and I need to accept that.
I can't wait for other people to hear everything you just said. Because there's so many people who feel that way. Do not speak up. And the whole purpose of this podcast is for someone to hear someone else say what they need to say for themselves in order to know there's hope. So thank you.
Thank you. We're crying today. It's okay.
Yeah, I rarely get through one of these podcasts without having tears in my eyes, whether people see it or not.
Right.
So now, how old are your kids?
My oldest is turning 10 a month from today, a month from yesterday. And my little one is 7 and a half.
And so how have things changed for your mental health now?
Once I realized that I needed to figure out what was going on with my kids, it allowed me to externalize what was going on with myself. Now I had a problem to solve for someone else because I was the test case of what happens if you don't figure out whatever that is. If you don't figure it out and you don't put them in the right systems and you don't put them in the right environments, they're going to be like me. And whether or not that's a life I will accept for myself, it's certainly not a life I would accept for my children. Hell no. So now we have something that we need to figure out. If they're going to be like me, then I need to be better, because if they're going to be like me and I'm just like, I've accepted that my life is going to be horrible forever, so then I'm accepting that their lives are going to be horrible forever and that there's nothing I can do about it. No, that didn't sit well with me. So that led me to my ADHD diagnosis. And like, even just thinking about neurodivergence as something that is applicable to normal people, not just high support need neurodivergence, but low support needs and medium support needs. There's a whole spectrum of neurodivergence that gets swallowed up because your support needs can be compensated for or masked or ignored by the people around you. Not intentionally, it's just not what we think of. When we think of ADHD, we think bouncing all over the place, bouncing up and down off the walls. They don't know how to pay attention to anything. We got to medicate them to calm them down. No, that's an ADHD person with high externalization of their ADHD and higher support needs, maybe in a classroom or in a structured setting. But the ADHD brain works the same. Just because somebody isn't like that on the outside doesn't mean that's not what they're like on the inside, which means that there are people who are suffering in silence because that's the only context for them of normal. So they're like, okay, everyone is just like this. And then that, thankfully, by the grace of God or whatever, aligned with COVID, which means that it aligned with TikTok, which means that it aligned with the algorithmic gods showing me that there's a lot of normal in the world. And I'm certainly not part of any category of normal. And when I say normal, I mean the majority, the average majority, not that you're abnormal. Just what is everything designed for? Everything is designed for the majority. Okay, so the algorithm gods were pointing me in a direction of ADHD and autism. And now I'm looking at my kids and reading more. My background is also mental health. My background is social work. I had just never thought about it for myself. And I was able to take all of the expertise that I had and information and data that I collected about myself and my kids and put it together into this is just ADHD. Cool. Okay. Now I know. Now there's something that I can focus on. So what do we know about ADHD? How do we solve it? How do we fix it? I started systematizing the crap out of my house. Everything here has a system, multiple overlapping systems. I did it for my kids. I do it for everybody. Everyone has their own systems for stuff, and people's systems align with, and laundry has a system, and the morning has a system, everything, absolutely everything. And fortunately, we have a neurotypical person in the home, so his brain can kind of handle all the executive functioning for the rest of us, so long as there is a system for him to implement. And then it was like, okay, not everything about me sucks. Everything about the way that I'm trying to be causes me to feel crappy. That's not depression. That's a normal outcome. Like, can you imagine waking up every day into just a terrible, awful life, objectively, a terrible, horrible life, and not being depressed? Mm-hmm. A very unique person. So it's not me. It's that I don't know what I'm comparing myself to. I've been comparing myself one-to-one with people around me. And that's incorrect. It's just a full logical fallacy. Like, you're assuming a lot of data points that are not correct. You're assuming way more than you actually have confirmation of. So now we need to dial it back and figure out, what do we have confirmation of? I know a few things about myself. One, I'm really smart. That's super important to recognize at the top, because you're comparing yourself to people who are maybe not so smart. So your comparison point is off. That knocks off a lot of external comparison, right? We're just going through the process of knocking off as much external comparison as humanly possible. The second thing I had to realize was, I've survived every single one of my worst days. Every single last one of them. So if I haven't succeeded in taking myself out yet, I guarantee you that there's nothing external that's going to succeed in taking me out, because I've tried really hard. I have been fighting myself to try and take myself out for as long as I've known myself, and I haven't succeeded. That means that I'm really strong. Yeah. So if I'm really smart and I'm really strong, and everything that I know about myself is false, or at the very least unvalidated, let's go figure it out. So what is true? And then I started my journey of what is true, what is real. And I mean, that's where I'm still at, because it's hard to put it all back together. It takes some time.
And I know you have a background in social work, but have you had help figuring that out for yourself, or was it a lonely journey?
Oh, that's a very interesting question. I had a ton of help. I started therapy I started seeing someone. I cannot guarantee that this person was a licensed therapist, but she was seeing a family member at the time for an eating disorder. And the way my parents presented it to me was, would you like to go see this same person as your family member? Because I think in their mind, they were hoping that she would help me lose weight. She was like a mental health dietitian, I think. So they were kind of hoping that she would help me lose weight and kind of figure out why I was such a fat person, which is silly in and of itself, because I was just like, a fluffy 13-year-old, like nothing to write home about whatsoever. Mm-hmm. So I started seeing her, and while I was seeing her, I actually developed an eating disorder, because it was kind of like I had an inside look, an inside scoop into what other crazy people who were sent to this person do. So then I adapted my behavior to align to what the other people who see her do.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had to fight the eating disorder that I had developed under her care, which is probably not the most recommended path of healing. And then when I moved away from my parents' house, I moved to Israel. I had a therapist there as well, and I saw her for a long time. I started medication there, but that's when I thought I was treating anxiety and depression. So I was there. I had a management team. I am a person who is anxious and I'm a person who's depressed. This is my life. I have a psychiatrist on my management team. I have a psychologist on my management team and other people as necessary in my support team. There was a very sharp shift with when I started to pursue my ADHD diagnosis, because your help wasn't helping anymore. Everyone who was around me, whether by my own design or just because that's how it happened, became an enabler of this narrative that we all agreed on, that I was somehow a sick person for my whole life, which is just not true. And even if you are a person with depression and anxiety your whole life, not every single day, that's crazy for you and everyone around you to just be like, I guess this is me. I guess this is what my life looks like. No, it is not. So when I moved to the United States, it was just me and my, God bless him, enabler father of my kids. Very codependent relationship. It had been built from when I was very young through multiple episodes of mental health as well. And challenges. I, in that time, had 2 psychotic break episodes, a manic episode, and multiple major depressive episodes. So he was struggling with no resources and no skills to try and make sure I was okay to the best of his ability. And that meant treating me like someone who needed a lot of help, which ultimately it weakens the fabric of all of your relationships and often isn't helpful in the long run. So then I decided I had ADHD. The data had presented itself to me, and then everyone told me that I was, whatever. Oh, you have ADHD like everyone else has ADHD. Like, no, not like that. And also maybe like that. I don't know. Maybe 50% of us have ADHD. What the hell do I know? I don't care. I know that I have figured something out about myself and that it's valid for me and that this is going to help me. Because if I can take the experience of the people and apply it to myself, then I can lower the noise in my life. So I've had help consistently throughout, but the person who has been most helpful in my happy and healthy life is me. And that's always going to be the case because the rest of the people don't know what they're talking about. They really want to know what they're talking about. They want to help you. People have the best intentions all the time, but you are the only person who knows what is true.
That's a really good point. I mean, whether you're talking about ADHD or depression or other things, I think it's like I've never been diagnosed with anything because I haven't gotten the help that you've gotten, and that was my own decision. But I think that depression was something I've had since I was very young, and I never understood that until I was probably in my 30s or 40s. Like I didn't understand it. And I'm wondering now that you know what you know and have been through all that you've been through, if you had this knowledge when you were that 13-year-old girl, would you have done anything different?
Yes. Yeah. So there's 2 parts to that. I'm going to address what you actually asked in a second. But the other piece to that is we didn't know anything 20 years ago. I know like it feels like we should have known better, or like we should have had the resources, or we technically had the information, but not really, because the internet wasn't ubiquitous. You didn't have access to information the way you do now. So we literally didn't know anything. Our parents didn't know anything.
Mm-hmm.
They knew what their grandmama and grandpapa taught them. And that's like pretty much it. And like they went to a little school and read a couple books in the library. You and I can know everything about anything in 5 seconds. So yes, there's definitely different stuff I would be doing. And this is kind of for, if you see a 13-year-old who sounds like me, what you should do for them now, as opposed to, I wish this had been done for me. Because yeah, I mean, yeah, but it was just not a possibility.
Yeah.
So the first thing is, well, really, it starts so much before that, right? Because once you're 13, you have your 0 to 6 years dialed in. Those 0 to 6 years are really so crucially important that if they're a safe and secure and happy and loved 0 to 6, you're going to be a much better adapted person than if your 0 to 6 years were insecure. But once you're 13, there's a couple of things, and you're like, okay, I think that there's some stuff going on. I don't know what it is. There's a few things that have to happen. The first is you have to move your body. You must move your body every single day. It allows, especially, and I'm speaking to women, really, women and young girls. It allows you to externalize things that you keep inside your body. You, as a young lady, or as a woman, are going to be like a beacon and a magnet for other people's emotions around you and other stuff that's going on outside of you. And we have a tendency to really hold on to that very tightly. Moving your body allows things to move through and out and not just stay inside you, because you are not responsible for other people's thoughts, feelings, behaviors, and actions. Similarly, talk to yourself out loud. Hear the words that are inside your brain, because then you're activating 2 pathways, not only what's going on inside your mind, but also you're speaking it and hearing it, which allows the parts of your brain that tell you, hey, you're being crazy, to wake up, because they're hearing the crazy thing that came out of your mouth. So anything that's inside, put it outside, write it down, speak it out loud, move your body, do things with movement, and trust the answer that your brain gives you.
I think that's very good advice.
Yeah, that would have been great advice. If someone had given me that advice at 13, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So I have a question, and you can answer this or not, but were you in the US before you moved to Israel?
Canada.
Oh, Canada. So what made you move? And you said you moved by yourself.
Yeah, I went to Israel for a gap year after high school. So I was 16 at the time. And I went to do a year of Judaic studies, and I worked and volunteered and lived in a group foster home. And really, I was just looking for a way out, a way to be on my own and just figure it out, because I kept getting help, but it wasn't the type of help I needed, liked, or wanted. I just wanted to figure it out on my own, because I had no faith in my support structure or systems. And then instead of going home for college, I just didn't. I stayed and did a year of national service, and then I was supposed to go home after that, and I just didn't. And I went to university and just stayed there for another 12 years. And it was really a blessing Because as difficult as it was and as challenging as it was me doing it on my own. And I needed to rely on my internal voice. And I believe that if I had kept myself in the same environments, in the same circumstances, with the same people, I don't think that I would be here.
I can relate to that.
Yeah.
I think sometimes we need to be, most people who know me think I'm a very social person, because when I'm around people, I'm always talking to them or learning about them. But and about myself. I don't know what happened.
Hello.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
So I'm just going to write down this time so I know when to edit. Anyway, I was saying that people think I'm a very social person, and how when I'm not around people, I really like to be alone. And I am not good at talking about my feelings. Like you said, it stays in my head. I had 4 concussions before first grade. So I don't know if that has something to do with my mental health state or not. I went to a counselor when I was a kid a couple of times, and I wouldn't talk to them. I don't remember why. I think part of it was that when I was younger, I had a lot of feelings of sadness and like depression, but I didn't know why.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know how to explain it to somebody. So people would ask me questions and I just didn't know what to say.
Right.
So anyway, I think
because adults are really bad at asking questions. They say things like, how was your day? How was your day is the weirdest, most non-specific, non-question. Like, what are you asking me? What do you want to know? Like, what are you genuinely asking me? And sometimes you're feeling sad. You're feeling something. You don't even know what you're feeling. You certainly don't know why you're feeling it. So first of all, reflecting back to yourself or to the child, if you're talking to a child, hey, I'm picking up on some sadness from you. Your face is telling me that you're sad and your eyes are looking like droopy. Is there anything inside that you want to talk about? And then shut up. Stop talking. Okay. I know that you're on a time clock. I know that you have so much important stuff to do. I promise you, you have 5 minutes to be silent and quiet and listen. And that advice applies to us about ourselves as well.
Mm-hmm.
And this is becoming so clear to me. I'm so glad you said that, because when I turned 30, I became the adult for myself. In my 20s, I was trying to build that adult. I was working real hard. And I had my own kids. I had to like keep them alive and stuff. You have to feed them all the time, like every day. It's crazy. And then you have to like bathe them, and then they like make sounds when they need stuff. It's just a lot going on. But at 30, by the time I was 30, my children had their 0 to 6 years almost. And I was able to parent myself, reparent myself while I was parenting them. So now I get to treat myself the way that I treat them when I remember. Sometimes it's easy to forget, right? And slip into our more adult patterns. But ultimately, you can only do yourself a service, especially in a mental health journey, of treating yourself like a child. And I mean that in the most loving, kind way. Ask yourself a question and expect the answer. And wait and give yourself space and give yourself time. You can be your own parent. And that's the best part about being an adult, because you really can fix everything. You're the adult now. The decisions are yours. And you have all of this amazing evidence of how strong and smart and capable and amazing you are. And just because the adults that were in your life when there were other adults in your life didn't understand it, you're the adult now. And you're in charge now. And you get to decide now. And you get to decide that you are amazing the way that you are right now. And that is so cool.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
That is really cool. I've never heard someone talk about it in that way. I think it's a really fantastic perspective. And I think it will help a lot of people.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. That's amazing. So, do you journal?
I think of myself as a journaler, but I cannot tell you the last time I journaled. Mostly because I'm scared of myself. I don't journal because I'm a coward. I do podcast, but honestly, and I think a lot of podcasters can relate to this, I just talk. I don't know what I said.
Yeah, I can relate to that.
I'm just talking, and I really hope it comes out okay.
No,
but I don't journal because I'm scared. The way that I bypass my own fear is talking to ChatGPT. I force my ChatGPT to critique me. And instead of journaling, I write books. I need to write a book about, and I'm going to process a whole slew of experiences that have like a common thread in a book. And whether it's a published book or not a published book, I'm forcing myself to at least engage with this content. At the very least, externalize it a little bit. If I wrote it down with a pen in a notebook, that would be even better.
Yeah.
But it's scary.
Well, the reason I asked you that question is because during COVID, when I had lost my business of 10 years and I was dealing with losing a friend to suicide and feeling like God was asking me to speak up about this, and I didn't want to.
Yeah.
And I had stayed silent for 23 years about my attempt, and I didn't really want to talk about it, but I felt like I needed to. And I had people in my life who had told me that I should journal about different things. I was like, I don't have time for that. And during COVID, I started journaling and started just writing things down that I was thinking because, just because, I don't know, I had a hard time remembering things sometimes. So I was like, well, maybe if I write it down, I can go back and read it and, whatever. But what I learned was when I wrote in a notebook or whatever, the journal, it was like stress relief.
Yeah.
Because and I had one of our authors in Scars to Stars tell me after he wrote his chapter, he's like, Dina, when you write it on paper, it's just words and it doesn't hurt anymore.
Yep.
And to me, that was profound because it kind of explained how I had felt, but I didn't know how to explain it.
Yeah.
But I do know that when people come to write in our books, they have the thought, like, I'm going to write my story and help other people. And what they don't understand is how much it's going to help them.
Yeah. I think we save these pieces until we're like ready.
Mm-hmm.
And it can feel hard to be ready when it's still your life.
Very true.
But you're always further along than someone else. And you're further along than your own self was yesterday. So you're helping other people. Yeah, but you're helping yourself. Almost like summarizing the chapter before you move to the next chapter.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, it's hard to synthesize all that data. Like, it's just too much information.
Yeah.
But externalizing is giving yourself a tremendous, tremendous gift, whatever way you choose to externalize. And my I'm scared and your I don't have time for this, they're like very similar energy. And then as you were saying, I don't have time for this, I remember that, I don't know, a few months ago, I took myself out for coffee and just brought my journal. Just sit down for half an hour. I'm going to make a note to do that once a week.
Well, Avy, this has been such a great conversation, and I hope maybe we can continue it. Maybe we can have an episode 2. I don't know. But
I would be honored to come back.
I'm super thankful for your vulnerability and your honesty.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here. And if the audience has any questions, I can't guarantee I'll answer them, but I can guarantee I will listen.
Yeah. Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here.